Hey, my friends, how's your heart today? Tonight we embark on a gentle story, a sleep-soaked journey nestled within the folds of time, one that floats on soft moonlight and settles like incense smoke over the worn stones of an ancient temple courtyard. Tonight we sit quietly beside Rahula, the Buddha's son, and listen not to grand sermons or dramatic revelations, but to the hush between breaths, to the wisdom that lives in stillness. Imagine, if you will, a quiet monastery tucked at the edge of a forest in the time of ancient India. The last light of dusk has melted into a muted blue, and the faint glow of a butter lamp flickers at the threshold of a stone kuti. The scent of sandalwood drifts through the evening air, mingling with the cool breath of the coming night. The birds have grown silent. Even the trees seem to hold their breath. Here in this sacred stillness, Rahula waits, a boy on the edge of something deeper than childhood. He's swept the floors, arranged the mats, trimmed the wick of the oil lamp with careful hands. But now there is nothing left to do. He sits alone, cross-legged back upright, watching the slow arc of the moon rise through the shadows of tall sal trees. There is anticipation in his breath. Not nervous, not restless, just alert like a leaf poised to fall, but not yet ready to let go. You sit with him. There's space for you beside him on the cool stone. The air feels soft against your skin, almost like silk. The Buddha is nearby, not speaking yet, just watching. You sense him there, wrapped in calm, like a robe of quiet light. You've heard stories of him, the enlightened one, the teacher of kings and outcasts alike, but here now there's no need for titles. He is simply a father, sitting with his child, in the way the moon sits with the sky. And somehow that's enough. There's no need to be more than what you are. No striving, no perfection. You're allowed to be weary, allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be exactly as you are, quiet, tired, breathing human. Rahula doesn't ask questions. He's learned by now that the teachings come not always in words, but in watching and breathing, in the way dew forms and disappears without announcement. He places his palms gently on his knees, the way his father once showed him. His back is straight but not tense. His eyelids rest half closed like lotus petals at night. You mimic him. There's no need to impress anyone here. No wrong way to be still. You notice the evening insects beginning their slow chorus, a soft droning like a humming chant from the grasses. Somewhere far off, a bird cries once and then falls quiet again. The monastery is breathing with you now. Inhale, exhale, inhale again. The stillness is not empty, it is full of small movements, of subtle sensations, of unseen kindness. The warmth of the stone beneath you, the scent of the wick, the faint brush of wind across your cheek. Everything is quiet, yes, but alive. As you sit with Rahula, a thought arises, but the moment you see it, it begins to dissolve, like mist curling away from a lantern. No need to chase it, just watch, let it pass, like a firefly floating beyond reach. The Buddha remains silent, but his presence is a teaching. Like a mountain that doesn't move, but changes all the clouds around it. And slowly, very slowly, the world begins to settle inside you. Your breath becomes heavier, deeper. Thoughts float up softer now, slower. Some sink without effort, some hover, then drift away. You remember a time when you were also waiting for something to begin or for someone to say the right thing. But tonight, nothing needs to begin. Everything has already arrived. Before we dive deeper into the story, take a moment to like and subscribe, only if this journey feels worth it to you. And if you feel comfortable, share where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always such a quiet joy to see our distant Sangha gathered in the stillness of night. Let the lights dim to a soft glow and the quiet whir of a fan fill the silence. Settle into stillness, let the day fade, and now let's gently begin tonight's history. The sun has set completely now. The moon glows full above. Rahula waits, and you begin to drift gently into the rhythm of a lesson that doesn't shout, but whispers, like the softest wind brushing across the rim of your bowl. You feel it, don't you? The story has already begun. The Buddha shifts slightly, just enough to make the fabric of his robe rustle softly. It's not a sound that breaks the silence, more like a note that joins it, deepens it. You glance toward him, but he is not looking at you. His eyes are on Rahula, still calm, entirely present. He doesn't speak, not yet, and still something is being said. You feel it in the way your breath seems to follow the rhythm of the trees around you. A long, quiet inhale, a pause, a gentle release. The breath doesn't need to be deep or controlled. It simply needs to be noticed. Rahula, still young, but seasoned by monastery life, understands that when his father says nothing, it is not absence, it is invitation. And so he sits, just as you do now. The air has cooled further, and you notice a new fragrance on the wind jasmine, blooming in some distant corner of the garden. Its scent arrives in waves, gentle and unhurried, as if even the flowers are keeping with the pace of this teaching. The moonlight touches everything in silver now. The Buddha, Rahula, and you all bathed in the same cool, pale glow. There's no harsh contrast, no spotlight, just soft clarity, the kind of light that reveals without demanding. And then, without turning his head, the Buddha finally speaks. His voice is low like a drum far off in the valley. Rahula, he says, and even your own body listens more closely. Just as the moon reflects in still water, the mind reflects the world. When the water is stirred, the reflection disappears. So too, when the mind is restless, wisdom cannot appear. Rahula nods, but he doesn't speak, and neither do you. The words aren't just heard, they echo inward. You remember moments when your own mind was stirred by longing, by fear, by the endless carousel of planning and memory. How many nights have passed with thoughts looping like restless birds in a closed room? But tonight you are not in that room. You are here where the air is wide and nothing is demanded of you. The Buddha continues slowly, as though his words are being laid down one by one, like stones on a quiet path. If your breath is like a breeze, your thoughts will follow it. Let the breath be calm, and the mind will sit down like a bird returning to its nest. You breathe, and something does begin to settle, not in a grand, dramatic way, more like silt gently falling to the bottom of a still pond. Rahula's spine is straight, not because he's forcing it to be, but because he is no longer holding anything. His posture is effortless, the kind of ease that comes only when there is nothing to prove. The Buddha continues pointing not to himself, but to the moon above. The moon does not shine by its own light. It reflects, it receives. So too the wise do not force their brilliance, they reflect the truth. You let that sink in, the idea that wisdom does not need to be loud or original. It can be simple quiet, like light resting on a leaf. There's a long pause, long enough for a breeze to move through the bamboo and make it sigh, long enough for a pair of owls to trade quiet calls somewhere in the distance. You shift slightly not out of discomfort, but because your body is remembering how to rest. You don't need to be perfectly still, you just need to be willing to stay with the breath, to stay with this moment. Rahula gently places one hand over the other, thumbs barely touching. His fingers curve softly, forming a quiet circle, a shape with no edge, no interruption. You follow. The simple mudra invites you to hold nothing, just rest in the gesture itself. The Buddha's voice again. To sit like the moon is not to hide. It is to reveal softly, to be without edges, to cast no shadow. And as he says it, you feel something in you release. A small tension behind the eyes, perhaps, or a grip around a thought you didn't realize you were holding. It loosens, it fades. Tonight is not about solving, not about arriving. It is about softening. Softening like a candle wick in warm oil, like a closed lotus slowly opening to the night air, like Rahula's breath even and gentle steady as the hush of wind across temple tiles. You feel your own edges beginning to blur, not disappear but dissolve into something wider. The weight of the day, its concerns and contradictions, fades into the background. Here under the moon, there is only breath, only being. And the Buddha says so quietly, it could be a dream, Rahula. When you sit, do not sit to become something. Sit to become nothing. And in that nothing, you will see everything. You let those words drift across your mind like petals across a stream. You don't need to analyze. You don't need to understand. You are simply here sitting like the moon. And that is more than enough. You remain seated beside Rahula within the hush that follows the Buddha's words. There's no rush to respond, no obligation to move forward. You're simply allowed to be here, to sit, to breathe, to receive. The silence stretches not in awkwardness, but in reverence. You feel it becoming part of your own inner rhythm. Each breath feels slower, now longer, like your lungs are learning to drink in peace. The cool stone beneath you becomes warmer with your body's quiet presence, and even your thoughts, once darting like small fish, now move more like drifting clouds. Rahula shifts slightly, realigning his posture, not out of discomfort, but like a tree leaning into a softer wind. He doesn't look at his father, nor at you. His gaze has turned inward, the way a pond receives the moon, not by trying, but by simply being still. The Buddha looks at his son and says softly, Rahula, do you see how the moon does not grasp for the sky? It shines because it is steady. It reflects because it is clear. And with that, a teaching unfolds, not in the form of logic or commandments, but in the imagery of moonlight. The Buddha teaches through the world around him, through what is already here, a breeze passing through the trees, the flutter of a moth against the lamp, the scent of wet earth after a late monsoon. You realize that these are not distractions from the lesson, they are the lesson. Sit like the moon, the Buddha says again, but this time more quietly, as though it's a mantra meant for the breath to carry, not the mind to hold. You close your eyes. Behind the lids, the glow of moonlight still seems to rest. You imagine it not as a distant object in the sky, but as a presence in your chest, round, radiant, cool, and calm. It hovers there, not heavy, not sharp, just luminous. You begin to wonder, what would it mean to reflect, instead of react, to receive the world without always rushing to shape it? This thought is not a strain. It's a feather brushing the surface of your awareness. You don't grasp it, you let it be. In this shared quiet, a memory surfaces not your own, but perhaps Rahula's, or perhaps one shared by all who have sat in the stillness of temples. It's the image of Rahula as a boy, even younger than now, watching his father teach, not with speeches, but with presence, sitting quietly beside the Sangha, carrying his alms bowl through dusty paths at dawn, bowing low to the elder monks, not out of duty, but out of deep recognition that all beings are mirrors to one another. There is something so steady about Rahula's breath now. You can almost match yours to his. Inhale, exhale, not deep, just gentle, like the sea at low tide, like a bell rung once and then allowed to fade naturally into silence. You're aware of your body again, not with judgment, but with softness. The curve of your spine, the way your shoulders have let go without you even noticing. Your jaw unclenched, your hands open like flower petals resting on your lap. The Buddha's gaze turns toward the forest. The deer in the woods do not know Dharma, he says, and yet they sit, still, alert, present. Without seeking, they are peaceful. It's not a comparison meant to diminish, but to remind that this practice is not only for the brilliant or the holy, it's for everyone, for the tired, the overworked, the anxious, the grieving, the uncertain, and yes, for you. You are welcome here, just as you are. The Buddha places his palms together and then slowly opens them facing upward, resting them on his lap. A gesture of offering and surrender, both at once. Rahula, he says again, there is nothing more sacred than this, to sit quietly, expecting nothing, and yet receiving everything. The wind shifts. You feel it move through the trees above, setting loose a cascade of tiny leaves. One lands gently on your shoulder and rests there. You imagine the Buddha might call it a teaching too. As Rahula breathes as you breathe, a clarity settles not like an answer, but like a clearing in the fog. You don't know what's ahead, and it doesn't matter. The path is always now. The practice is always now. This breath, this stillness, this moon, even the insects seem to slow their hum, as though they too have tuned into the rhythm of this night. The Buddha looks back to Rahula and says, wisdom grows not from effort alone, but from ease, from the willingness to be here fully, from the courage to not run. You reflect on the places you've run from, situations, conversations, perhaps even your own heart. But tonight you are not running. You are resting, sitting like the moon. And in that stillness, a kind of quiet joy rises. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just a sense of rightness, of alignment. The Buddha closes his eyes. Rahula does the same. And so do you. The night deepens. Shadows stretch longer, not in menace but in calm. The stars begin to pepper the sky behind the moon, faint and silent as though they too are listening. Everything is quieter now, not just outside but within you. The rhythm of the world has slowed, and your mind, once chattering like a crowded room, now feels like an empty hall echoing with only breath. You sit beside Rahula, and it is as if time has folded in on itself. The edges between centuries blur. Between your breath and his breath, no difference. Between your waiting and his receiving, no distance. You are both here in this moment, under the gaze of the same moon. The Buddha, still seated, lifts his hand, slowly holding it palm up, as if balancing a bowl of moonlight. He doesn't speak right away. Instead, he traces a circle in the air with one finger. This, he says gently, is the shape of the path. You follow the motion with your eyes. There is no beginning and no end, just a smooth, quiet arc that returns to itself. The circle, a teaching without words, a life without clinging. The path doesn't need to be forced, he continues. It is not climbed like a ladder. It is sat upon, stepped into. It appears beneath your feet the moment you pause long enough to feel it. You breathe that in. The idea that stillness itself is movement, that by choosing to be here gently aware, you are already walking. Rahula nods. He doesn't rush to understand. He doesn't reach for more. He simply lets the words hang in the air like dew on grass, waiting to fall when the time is right. The Buddha turns to him with eyes soft and steady. Do you remember the water basin, he asks. Rahula smiles faintly, and so do you. Perhaps you don't know the memory, but the phrase invites an image all its own, a stone basin tucked in a courtyard corner filled with still water. You picture it reflecting the moon, unmoving, unclouded. When the surface is calm, the Buddha says, it reveals everything clearly. But when stirred, what do you see? Only ripples, Rahula answers quietly. Only distortion. And so it is with the mind, the Buddha replies. Let it settle, and it becomes a mirror. Let it rush, and it forgets its own shape. You've felt that before, haven't you? Those days when your thoughts stirred like wind in tall grass, everything blurred, nothing certain. But also those moments rare but sacred when stillness returned, when something inside you paused, and in that pause saw clearly, not dramatically, not even with answers, just with presence. Now you feel your breath becoming that basin. Each inhale a gentle wave, each exhale a deeper settling. You imagine your breath making its way down to the soles of your feet, warm and grounding. Each toe, a stone resting in soft mud. Each joint, a reed swaying with the breeze of now. The Buddha closes his eyes again and says, to sit like the moon is not to escape the world, but to reflect it with compassion. Not to withdraw, but to see without being entangled. You let that settle. So often we chase clarity, as though it's something we must grasp, wrestle, capture. But what if clarity is what arrives when you stop grasping, when you simply rest, reflect, and remain? Rahula shifts once more, his hands now cupped loosely together. His posture holds no tension. He is not trying to meditate. He is simply being still, like the grass, like the stone, like the moon. You follow him naturally. Your hands relax. Your shoulders sink a little deeper, and something subtle begins to happen. A quiet release. the letting go of effort. You're not trying to sleep, not even trying to learn. You're just here. That's enough. From somewhere deeper in the monastery, a soft gong sounds a single low note that seems to come not from metal, but from the earth itself. It doesn't startle you. It resonates through your chest like a memory you never knew you carried. A tone from lifetimes ago. The Buddha, eyes still closed, speaks once more Rahula, just as the moon shines equally on mountains and muddy fields. Let your awareness rest on all things without preference. That is the beginning of compassion. You feel something stir inside, a warmth, a quiet gratitude for the simplicity of this moment, for the gentle reminder that your worth does not come from striving. It comes from being awake, even in stillness, especially in stillness. You place your focus gently on your breath again, not sharply, not with effort, just softly, like placing a leaf on water. And you feel it now, how awareness does not need to be tight or narrow. It can be wide, soft, and full of grace. As the moon rises higher, its glow seems to soften. It no longer illuminates, it embraces. The trees no longer cast shadows. The darkness itself has become gentle. You are still sitting, still breathing, still becoming more and more like the moon. And Rahula, he does not speak, but in his breath, in his presence, you sense it, he understands. Not with the mind, but with the body, with the stillness of a young monk learning to sit not for perfection, but for peace. You are learning too. You are sitting too. And slowly, wordlessly, you are beginning to glow. The courtyard holds its breath. A hush lingers in the air like mist before dawn. All around you, time feels softened, as if padded with thick clouds or folded gently beneath the blanket of night. The Buddha's words continue to drift in your mind, not pressing, not commanding, but simply present like the moon above, needing no explanation. Let your awareness rest on all things without preference. The phrase moves slowly across your chest, a quiet wave washing the shores of your attention. You begin to feel what that means, not as a concept, but as an experience. You shift slightly on your cushion, not out of discomfort, but to settle more deeply like a stone sinking into a riverbed. The weight of your body becomes welcome grounding. Your spine gently lengthens, not from effort, but as a bamboo stalk leans into the breeze, not forced, simply aligned. Rahula, still beside you, inhales softly. His chest rises and falls like the slow rhythm of temple bells in the early morning. There's no striving in him. He is not performing meditation. He is simply here, breathing, listening, reflecting. The Buddha speaks again, his voice, no louder than the rustle of leaves, but every syllable lands with perfect clarity. Rahula, just as the moon follows its path without clinging to the stars, so too must you follow the path without being pulled by praise or blame, success or failure. You feel the truth of it settle into your chest. How often have you been drawn off your path by what others thought, by the brightness of approval or the sting of criticism? But now, under this moon, there's no one to impress, no standard to meet. You're not trying to become enlightened. You're simply learning how to sit, how to rest, how to let go. Rahula shifts his gaze to a single lotus blooming at the edge of the courtyard pond. Its petals are open now, touched by moonlight. In this gentle hour, it looks less like a flower and more like a question unfolding, one without an answer, one that doesn't need one. The Buddha notices and his voice follows Rahula's gaze. The lotus blooms not by rushing, but by being ready. It opens when the sun and water and air all say now. You must be like that, Rahula, not hurrying, not holding, just being. You breathe that in and you realize this practice, this meditation, this quiet night isn't about adding more to yourself. It's about softening what's already there, letting the clenched fist of your mind unfurl, letting the voice that always needs to explain itself go quiet. Even your thoughts now seem softened at the edges, like clouds drifting behind the moon. They arise, yes, but they no longer demand your attention. They pass, and you stay, still, listening. The courtyard is so quiet now, you can hear the sound of a moth's wings as it circles the lamp near the Buddha's seat. Each flutter a reminder, even small things can be part of the teaching. Even the things we overlook, the tiny frustrations, the stray thoughts, the restless heart can be welcomed, studied, understood. Rahula the Buddha says again, you must learn to welcome all things as guests, even those that disturb you, especially those. You let your attention wander not away but inward. You notice a flicker of thought, something unfinished from the day, a comment perhaps, or a task left undone. It rises trying to claim your peace, but instead of resisting, you greet it gently, like welcoming a traveler to your home, offering tea before they continue on their way. This too is part of the practice, not banishing thought, but bowing to it, then letting it pass. Rahula bows his head, now hands in lap breath, soft as silk. The Buddha is quiet again, and the silence is deep, not hollow, but full like a temple bell after the ring fades or the pause between waves on a still shore. You feel it in your own body, the shape of stillness. It's not stiff, it's not rigid, it's soft, round, and wide. It allows for everything, and it holds you. You think back, perhaps, to how hard you tried to relax before. How strange that sounds now to try to relax. But here in the company of moonlight and monks, you don't need to try. You're simply remembering how to be. The moon sits high now, almost directly above. It casts a pale light over the trees, the stones, the robe of the Buddha, the face of his son. And over you too. You are not outside this scene. You are woven into it, part of the same fabric, the same silence, the same teaching. The Buddha finally speaks again. Rahula, he says, when your breath is steady and your mind like the moon, then even your sorrows will become teachers. Even your mistakes will become bridges. That thought settles like dust on a windowsill, silent, fine, and honest. You think of your own missteps, the times you wished you could undo. But tonight they feel lighter, not gone, but softened. Their hard outlines blurred like stones smoothed by years of river flow. You breathe once, twice. There is nothing to achieve in this breath, no goal. It is enough that it happens, that you are here to notice it. Rahula is smiling now, not broadly, just the faint curl of someone who has heard something deep and familiar. And for a moment, he turns to look at you not as a stranger, but as someone sharing this same night, this same silence, this same slow path of becoming, and then he returns to his breath, to the moon, to the space between thoughts. So do you. The wind returns barely there, just enough to stir the hem of your robe, just enough to rustle a few leaves in the corner of the courtyard. It's not the kind of wind that arrives with force. It's the kind that brushes gently across your face like a familiar hand. A reminder that even the air, even the unseen, plays its part in this teaching. Rahula shifts not restlessly, but in sync with the breeze. A small adjustment in his posture, as though responding to something soft and unseen. His movements are unhurried like a reed moving with the current, not against it. The Buddha watches him and then speaks his voice low and warm. Do you feel that, Rahula? Even the wind knows how to bow. It touches everything but clings to nothing. That is how awareness must be. You feel the words fall gently into the space between your collarbones, between one breath and the next. Your attention too begins to take on that shape light, wandering respectful. Not fixed or forced, but open. Like the wind, like the moon, like a monk's empty bowl held out beneath the stars. You let your eyes soften, no longer looking, but receiving. The scene before you becomes less distinct in its details and more unified in feeling. The temple, the moon, the breath, all of it one seamless field of silence. And then the Buddha reaches forward beside him and lifts an object from the ground, a small, simple bowl, the kind every monk carries. It has no ornament, no markings, just a smooth curve of clay, dark and round. He holds it out in front of him, the moonlight catching its surface. This, he says, is enough. Rahula watches. So do you. When it is empty, it serves its purpose. When it is filled, it serves its purpose. But it does not cry out for more. It does not cling to what it once held. You feel those words settle somewhere low and steady in your belly. You think of all the times you've tried to fill your own bowl with plans, with accomplishments, with praise, and how heavy it became, how tiring it was to carry things that no longer served. Let your mind be like this bowl. The Buddha continues, able to receive, but not to grasp, able to release without sorrow. He places the bowl gently back beside him, and the sound it makes stone on stone is surprisingly soft. A grounded sound, a sound that tells you everything is exactly where it should be. You look at your hands resting in your lap. They too form a bowl of sorts, curved, receptive, empty in a way that feels not lacking, but spacious. You wonder what would it be like to carry yourself like that, through the world, not needing to prove, not needing to acquire, just ready, open. Rahula's eyes remain on the bowl, but his expression has changed. There is understanding there, not as a sudden realization, but as a quiet settling, like dust that has finally stopped stirring in a sunbeam. The moon shifts slightly in the sky, casting new shadows along the temple floor. You watch as a tree's silhouette stretches slowly across the stone like a brushstroke of darkness painted over light. Even the shadow teaches, the Buddha says, as if reading your thoughts. Without it, you could not see the glow. You think of your own shadows, your uncertainties, your regrets, your fears that come knocking at night when the world is quiet. And for the first time, you consider, what if those too are teachers? What if the parts of you you've tried to hide are simply asking to be seen in the soft light of awareness. Rahula bows his head in silence, and the Buddha doesn't say more. He doesn't need to. The lesson has already been given. Your breath deepens again without effort. It flows through you like water through a mountain stream, cool, patient, unstoppable. You are not controlling it. You are simply witnessing it, letting it carry you toward stillness. And now even your thoughts, when they rise, do so gently. They arrive like petals on wind, linger for a moment, and then continue past. No story is needed, no explanation, only noticing, only allowing. You begin to feel the depth of this simplicity, the vastness of it, sitting quietly like Rahula, like the moon, like the bowl. This is the practice. This is the wisdom. Nothing added, nothing forced, just the humble power of being fully here. You close your eyes and picture the moon overhead, not as something distant, but as something within you. A center of cool, unwavering light, not shining to be seen, just shining because it is. The Buddha's voice enters the silence once more. Rahula, when you are like the bowl, when you sit like the moon, you will not need to chase peace. It will come to you like rain to the open earth. A smile stirs in your chest, not on your lips necessarily, but deeper. A knowing smile, as if your whole being is nodding, yes. Yes, this is what you've been missing. Not another answer, but a place to rest. Somewhere in the distance, the first whispers of early dawn begin to stir the horizon, though the moon still holds the courtyard in its silver spell. The stars, like seeds scattered across dark velvet, are beginning their quiet retreat. Yet here beneath the sal trees and the hush of a still world, nothing rushes. Nothing breaks the calm. Rahula remains seated beside you, his breath steady, his gaze lowered not in submission, but in reverence. Reverence not just for his father, the Buddha, but for the moment itself, for the silence, for the simplicity, for the presence that asks nothing of him and yet gives everything. And you are still breathing, still with him, still with yourself. In the same posture, with the same spacious hands, the same bowl-shaped lap, the same heart now softening like the moonlight slipping over stone. The Buddha turns his head slightly toward the stone path that winds through the monastery gardens. It is lined with soft moss and worn smooth by the countless footsteps of monks before you, teachers and students, wanderers and sages, each passing quietly barefoot, letting the earth press gently into their souls. Come, he says, his voice barely more than breath. Let's walk a while. Rahula rises with practiced ease, moving like a reed unbending in slow wind. You rise too careful not to disturb the silence that still clings to your body like mist on cloth. Your limbs feel looser now, less burdened by the weight of striving. There is no rush, only rhythm. You follow the Buddha's footsteps down the garden path, and each step feels like a small prayer heel sole toes, placed with intention, received by the earth. The ground is cool beneath your feet, the moss springy and damp with nighttime dew. You feel it soak gently through your skin, anchoring you in the now. Rahula the Buddha says, without turning, the earth accepts every step, without resistance, without pride. It does not mind whether you are joyful or angry, enlightened or confused. It simply receives you. You let those words fall into your breath, and they change something. You feel the way your body connects with the ground, not as something separate, but as part of it. Each step is not something added to the earth. It is the earth shifting, responding, supporting. The mindful step, the Buddha continues, is not about arriving. It is about remembering that you are already home. You breathe, and the step comes. Another breath, another step, and something in you begins to slow even further. The thinking quiets, the planning fades. You are no longer the one walking. You are the walking itself. Rahula says nothing, but you feel him beside you, his presence, like a calm breeze, like the shadow of a branch brushing against your arm without effort or intention. He walks lightly, his arms at ease, his attention nowhere and everywhere. You notice now the sound of dew slipping from leaf tips to the earth below, soft, rhythmic, like a second heartbeat hidden beneath your own. The moon still follows above, casting long, gentle shadows of the three of you along the path, like a silent trinity of breath, presence, and peace. The Buddha slows his pace, then stops at a small pond bordered by lotus blooms. Their petals are closed now, sleeping, but even in their sleep they teach. Rahula, he says softly, watch how the lotus does not bloom all at once. Petal by petal, it opens, and it closes when night falls, not because it is afraid of the dark, but because it listens to the rhythm of the world. You step closer to the water's edge and see your reflection mingled with Rahula's and the Buddha's. The pond does not choose what it reflects. It simply shows what is there without judgment, without attachment, without fear. And in that mirror of water, you see something subtle, not your face as you know it, but your stillness, your presence, your being. The Buddha gestures toward the pond, his arm extending like a branch in slow motion. Let your mind be like this surface, not empty but still, not blank but open. You watch as a small insect lands on the water, sending ripples outward. They spread gently, fading before they reach the shore. The water accepts the touch, responds, then returns to calm. This is the teaching too, not the absence of movement, but the returning, the coming back. You remember now so clearly the many times your mind wandered through old conversations, into imagined futures, into worries that never bloomed. But tonight there is no need to follow those paths. Tonight you are walking the soft path of the present, the moss underfoot, the moon overhead, the breath within. Rahula turns to you now, eyes soft and clear. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. There is a quiet kinship between you, not born of words, but of stillness shared. And you realize you are not practicing in solitude. You are part of a lineage not of blood, but of presence, of those who chose to sit with discomfort instead of running from it, to walk slowly, mindfully instead of rushing, to open petal by petal instead of blooming all at once. You feel the pond in your breath now, the lotus in your shoulders, the moss in your steps. You carry the teachings without having to hold them. They are already within you. As the walk continues, each step becomes lighter, not because your body is weightless, but because your mind has unclenched. Even your thoughts seem to take softer shapes now, as though they too have learned to walk more gently. You pause beside the Buddha, and he looks toward the eastern sky, where the first line of dawn has begun to trace itself along the horizon. The night yields, he says, but the silence remains. Let it walk with you. And you do. The three of you walk in silence a while longer, the Buddha Rahula, and you each step a soft echo in the garden's early stillness. The night is beginning to stretch just a little. The moon hangs lower now, and the stars are fading like memories that no longer need to be remembered. A faint blush touches the horizon, barely perceptible, like a whispered promise that morning will come. Yet in this moment, there is no longing for the day, no urgency to arrive. Only presence, only breath, only the quiet rhythm of feet against damp earth. You feel each step now, not as a task, but as a gift, a gesture of reverence. The walking itself has become the prayer. Rahula glances up at the sky. Father, he asks, his voice so soft it barely disturbs the air. What should I do when my thoughts return, when they pull me into stories and regrets? The Buddha pauses at a bend in the path. There beside a stone lantern, he turns to face his son, his expression neither stern nor sweet, only clear like still water, reflecting a mountain. He kneels down and picks up a single fallen leaf, its edges tinged with silver from the moon. He holds it gently as though it were a sleeping bird. Rahula, he says, the mind will wander. That is its nature. Just as this leaf was part of the tree, it was meant to fall. It does not resist the wind, and yet it is never separate from the tree. He extends the leaf toward his son, who accepts it with both hands, cupped like a bowl. When your thoughts drift, the Buddha continues, do not fight them. Do not cling to them. Watch them as you would a leaf carried on a stream. Let them pass. Let them teach you how to return. You feel those words press into your heart with a gentle firmness. You've spent so much time chasing thoughts down winding corridors or trying to block them like unwanted guests. But now the image shifts thoughts as leaves, as visitors. Not enemies, not truths, just movement. Rahula places the leaf into the fold of his robe, and if I follow them too far, the Buddha smiles faintly. Then you notice, and you return, again and again. That is the practice, not staying still like a stone, but returning like the tide. You are not asked to be perfect, Rahula. You are asked to return. You let that teaching sink into your shoulders, your breath, your feet. It removes the weight of self-judgment, that old companion. Suddenly, each breath is an opportunity not to master the moment, but to begin again, and again, and again. You walk a few more steps, the sound of your feet like gentle waves along the edge of a quiet shore. Then the Buddha stops again, this time near a bamboo grove, swaying lightly in the early morning breeze. Watch the bamboo, he says. You look. The tall, slender stalks bend with the wind swaying easily, never resisting, never snapping. They move with the air, not against it. This, the Buddha says, is what we must learn. Flexibility, grace, the ability to yield and still remain whole. He moves his hand through the air, slowly mimicking the arc of a bamboo stalk in wind. Your thoughts, he continues, may pull you. Your circumstances may test you. But if your heart is like bamboo strong, but yielding, you will not break. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine your breath traveling through a bamboo grove. You feel the sway in your own spine, the softness in your joints. You are not a rigid statue. You are a tree in wind, and the wind will pass. It always does. Rahula stands silently watching the bamboo. His shoulders have softened even more now. There is no longer the tension of a student waiting for the right answer. There is only attention, only being. He doesn't try to memorize the lesson. He lives it. A soft sound draws your attention, a bamboo leaf brushing against another barely audible, like the whisper of a dream, like the distant echo of a teaching that existed long before words. You are reminded again that this night, this walk, is not for fixing anything, not for reaching some higher state. It is for remembering that you already have what you need, that stillness is not something you earn, it's something you return to. The Buddha begins walking again slowly now, each footfall deliberate. Rahula follows. You follow, there is no hurry. The silence continues to guide you, and as the trees thin, you glimpse the edges of the eastern sky. It is pale now, the indigo melting into soft gray. The stars have vanished. The moon prepares to rest. The Buddha glances back just once and says, "This is how we learn to sit like the moon, by walking like the wind, bending like the bamboo, returning like the tide." You feel something expand in your chest, an exhale you didn't know you were holding. The teaching has not been loud, but it has reached you, not through your ears alone, but through your breath, your feet, your attention. You have been walking, yes, but more than that, you have been arriving. The eastern sky continues to lighten. It's still too early for the sun itself, but there's a quiet shifting in the light, an exhale of the night, as if the stars, having completed their watch, now bow and depart. The soft blue of pre-dawn begins to stretch across the courtyard roofs, and the shadows beneath your feet begin to loosen their grip. Rahula, walking just ahead of you, pauses beneath a flowering tree. Its blossoms are pale and delicate, almost translucent in this hour, like breath given form. A single petal detaches, fluttering downward in slow spirals until it lands softly on the back of his hand. He doesn't move, he just watches it rest there. The Buddha, not far behind, smiles gently. "See how it falls," he says. Without panic, without resistance, it doesn't try to remain attached. It simply lets go. Rahula looks up toward his father, then toward you, and you see in his gaze a growing understanding. Not a sudden burst of realization, but the soft layering of insight, like rice slowly steaming over a fire, like moonlight gradually filling a room. You recall times in your own life when letting go felt impossible, when the mind clutched to outcomes, to people, to plans, even to the stories of who you were supposed to be. And yet here is a petal releasing itself into the air without argument, carried not by effort, but by surrender. The Buddha steps forward and kneels to the ground. He draws a small circle in the dirt with his finger. "Rahula," he says, "this is your practice." Rahula kneels beside him, and so do you. This circle, the Buddha continues, has no corners. It doesn't begin or end. Just like your breath, your path, your practice, you do not need to force your way through it. You only need to stay with it. You feel the truth of that settle into your bones. For so long, perhaps you believed spiritual growth meant climbing, striving, achieving, like a summit to be conquered. But here on this simple path, in the soft dirt of a monastery garden, You begin to understand it is not a mountain, it is a circle, a returning. Rahula traces the circle again, with his fingers slower this time, not to perfect it, but to remember it. The Buddha watches his son, then closes his eyes. Once Rahula, he says, "You asked me how to live rightly. Do you remember?" Rahula nods. And I said, reflect before, during and after every action. Ask, is this kind? Is this useful? Does this bring harm or peace? You listen closely, and something within you stirs. The practice is not complicated. It is not beyond you. It is in every gesture, every word, every breath. You begin to reflect softly inwardly. Today, were you kind? Did you speak gently to yourself, to others? Did you offer peace or carry tension into the rooms you entered? There's no judgment in these questions, only the warmth of honesty, like sunlight touching cold stone, not to punish, but to thaw. The Buddha opens his eyes again. This is how the mind becomes like the moon. It reflects what is true without distortion. It does not force light. It simply allows it. You take a breath, long and slow, in, out. The air is cool but not cold. It fills you without effort. You feel it move through your ribs, through your spine, through the soft bowl of your belly. It settles there like clear water in a clay vessel. Rahula reaches down and picks up the fallen petal. He holds it in his palm for a moment before lifting it to the breeze. It catches the wind easily and dances away just as gently as it came. You watch until it disappears, not with sadness, but with quiet joy. There is something deeply beautiful in watching something go with grace. The Buddha rises again and walks toward the pond. The water is still mirroring the pale sky above. A few insects skim across its surface, leaving gentle ripples behind them, like rings of sound in a bell that's just been struck. Look, the Buddha says, pointing to the water. You step closer, careful not to disturb the edge. When your mind is clear, he says, you will see both the sky and the water at once. You will know the difference, and yet you will not need to separate them. You see it now the way the sky lives in the pond, and the pond in the sky. The way your thoughts ripple then fade. The way your breath touches everything within you, yet belongs to no one. The Buddha continues. There is no need to silence the mind, only to listen to it the way you would listen to a bell from far away, present, but not grasping, aware but not entangled. You close your eyes again, and now the image of the pond stays with you, not as something to stare at, but something you are, a still surface, reflective, deep, and perfectly capable of peace, even with movement. Rahula dips a hand into the pond, and the ripples shimmer outward. He smiles not because he changed the water, but because he felt it respond. You realize something. Then this practice, this path, this teaching, it doesn't ask you to become someone new. It invites you to remember who you already are beneath the surface, beneath the ripples. And in this moment, as the sky begins to turn from gray to gold, you feel it in every part of your being, a quiet belonging, a stillness not imposed, but discovered. You stand by the pond, not seeking, not resisting, just like the moon, just like the water, just like Rahula, who has learned to sit not for mastery, but for presence. And so have you. The first golden edge of sunlight brushes the tops of the trees, and with it comes a hush even deeper than night. It's not silence exactly, it's a still reverence, like the world itself is bowing gently to the morning. You stand beside Rahula and the Buddha, and the pond before you reflects the sky with such clarity, it feels as though you could step into it and walk through clouds. The Buddha turns his robe, catching the breeze, and begins to walk again, this time toward the eastern garden, where low shrubs and delicate blossoms line the narrow path. Dew clings to every leaf, every blade of grass, and it glitters now like tiny universes scattered across the earth. You follow each step softer than the last. You're not just walking, you're moving within a quiet ritual. The breath, the earth, the soft rustle of cloth. Every movement becomes part of the meditation. Rahula walks beside you again, and for a while no one speaks, not out of distance, but out of fullness. The silence between you is alive, filled with meaning, with peace, with the deep and gentle presence of shared practice. Eventually, the Buddha pauses beside a large, ancient fig tree whose roots curl from the earth like flowing robes. Its branches stretch wide, offering shade, even in the early light. This tree, he says, knows how to hold space. He places his palm against the bark, eyes closed. It shelters birds without asking who they are. It welcomes the wind without needing anything in return. It gives and gives and gives simply because that is its nature. You approach the tree and lay your own hand upon it. The bark is cool, slightly rough, but solid, steady. A presence that does not move, and yet somehow embraces all things. You too can become like this, the Buddha says, not by effort, but by stillness, not by becoming more, but by letting go of what you are not. The words land inside you like a stone into still water, sending ripples that do not disturb, but deepen. You close your eyes and listen to the breeze moving through the leaves. It sounds almost like a voice, not one that speaks in language, but one that says you belong. You always have, even in your confusion, even in your weariness, even now. Rahula settles onto the ground beneath the tree, crossing his legs without hesitation, as if he has sat there many times before. You join him, your knees brushing soft moss, the earth cool beneath your skin. The air is rich with the smell of wet leaves, morning blossoms, and the faint musk of turned soil. The Buddha speaks again, this time softer. Rahula, when you sit beneath a tree, remember you are not separate from it. Your breath becomes its breath. Your stillness becomes its roots. You are not simply learning to meditate. You are learning to return. To return. That word echoes again and again in your chest. Return not to a place, but to yourself. To the part of you that was never broken, only buried. To the part of you that breathes without trying, that notices without judging, that loves without needing reward. The Buddha continues, when your mind wanders, treat it as a child who has gone exploring. Welcome it home with tenderness. Do not scold it. Do not chase it. Just open the door and say, come back, dear one. Sit with me again. You imagine your own wandering thoughts, now not as mistakes, but as children returning from play. You greet them gently. You watch them arrive and rest. Some stay, some leave, but you remain. Rahula watches a single ant crawl along a root beside him. He follows its movement with steady eyes, not bored, not distracted, just present. The Buddha notices and smiles. Even the smallest life can be a teacher. This ant carries no temple, no prayer beads, and yet it walks with focus, with purpose, with care. You lower your gaze to the same root and see it too, the tiny creature, moving steadily along the bark's curve, undisturbed by the great questions that fill the human mind. It simply walks. That is enough. You sit a little deeper now, not physically but inwardly. Your awareness sinks like a stone, settling into the deepest part of a lake. No rush, no struggle, just a slow, inevitable return to stillness. The breeze picks up and moves through the fig tree's canopy, and the leaves shimmer like wind chimes without sound. Light filters through them in golden threads, draping the garden in a woven cloth of mourning and memory. And you remember not a fact, not a name, but a feeling, that somewhere within you the stillness has always been waiting, that even when you forgot it, it did not forget you. The Buddha's voice, low and steady, reaches you once more. To sit like the moon is not to rise above the world. It is to shine gently within it, to reflect peace into all corners, even the ones that tremble. You open your palms, now resting them loosely on your knees. You're not asking for anything. You're simply open. You feel the air move across your fingers like a blessing. And for a moment, brief and whole, you do not need to fix or improve or protect anything. You are simply sitting, like the tree, like the moon, like Rahula, whose eyes are closed now, lips slightly parted in a breath so soft it could be a prayer, or perhaps something even simpler, a sigh, a letting go. The garden around you brightens by a shade. A bird calls out once clear and sweet. The morning has begun, but you are not rushing to meet it. You are still here, and that is enough. Time stretches like a silk thread in the morning light, long, smooth, and quiet. You are still beneath the fig tree, and the garden seems to breathe around you, a great living presence that does not speak but offers everything. The shadows have softened now, but the stillness remains. Even as the birds begin their slow chorus, even as the sky blooms into blue, the silence within you continues. Rahula has not moved. His face is turned slightly upward, eyes closed, as though the warmth of sunlight is something he's listening to. The Buddha sits across from him, spine straight shoulders, soft his presence radiant, without shine clear, without effort. You too are still sitting. The ground beneath you no longer feels separate. You're not sitting on the earth, you're sitting with it. Your body no longer feels like something to manage, or fix, or escape. It feels like home. Then the Buddha speaks again, not loudly, not suddenly, but in a voice that feels woven from wind and wisdom. Rahula, he says, "Do you remember the water basin?" Rahula nods gently. "Yes, Father. Tell me when the water is muddy. Can you see your face?" No, Rahula replies, the image is blurred, and when it is still and clear, then I see myself as I am. The Buddha inclines his head slightly. And so it is with the mind. When stirred by craving fear or distraction, we cannot see the truth. We mistake our reflections for reality. But when the mind settles, truth arises not as something found, but as something revealed. You reflect on this now, the many ways your own thoughts have muddied the water, have created ripples and shadows, mistaken for something solid. You think of the countless times you reacted, spoke, chose all, while the water was swirling. But here this morning, something is different. The pond of your mind is still, and in that stillness, you see something simple and profound, not a revelation, not a miracle, just yourself breathing. The Buddha continues, there is no need to force the water to still. You must only stop stirring it. You breathe that in like warm tea on a cool morning. It lands deep. It feels true. So often your thoughts have felt like problems to solve. But what if there's simply movement? What if they pass and you remain? You feel the breath rise again, cool through the nose, soft through the chest. It rests at the belly like a boat in calm harbor. You ride it without effort. You do not steer. You simply float. Rahula's breath too is deepening. He places one hand over his chest, just lightly, as if to greet his own heart. You mimic him. Your palm is warm now, the beating beneath it steady and gentle, not hurried, not panicked, just present. The Buddha watches you both. This is the training, he says, to remain, to stay when it would be easier to flee, to notice when it would be easier to ignore. You remember again the times you've turned away from your discomfort, your mistakes, your own quiet pain, the times you scrolled instead of sitting, reacted instead of resting, spoke instead of listening. And yet, here you are, now not running. You stayed, and something in you begins to bloom, not like a sudden flower, but like light behind a curtain. A slow unfurling, gentle, patient, whole. The Buddha leans forward just slightly and touches the earth with the tips of his fingers. A gesture you recognize, a mudra he has used before. The earth witness. The gesture he made the night he awoke beneath another fig tree years ago when he was challenged by illusion and fear. You feel the meaning ripple through the morning air. To witness the earth is to remember you belong. You are part of all this, not separate, not lesser, not lost. Rahula mirrors the gesture now. So do you, fingertips brushing the cool, fertile ground. There's no magic in the movement, but there is memory. And in that memory, peace. The Buddha closes his eyes and you follow him inward. You see a garden, but it is no longer outside you. It is within. Trees that reach toward the stars, ponds that reflect every phase of the moon, bamboo that bends with breath, paths that wind but never confuse. In this inner garden, nothing needs to be planted. It was always here. You sit in the center of it now. You, Rahula, the Buddha, all beneath the same tree, the same sky, the same breath. And from within that inner stillness, the Buddha speaks once more, not with lips, but through the air itself. When the water clears, when the breath slows, when the moon rises in your mind, there is nothing to fix. There is only this moment, this stillness, this truth. You take one more breath, fuller now. You don't try to hold it. You let it move through you like wind through branches, like a bell's fading ring, like kindness, unnoticed but deeply felt. Rahula's eyes open slowly. He smiles not at anything but from within, a smile that says, I see, I'm here. You smile too, not for him, not even for yourself, just because stillness has ripened into joy. And now you are not learning to sit like the moon. You are the moon, full, silent, shining, enough. The fig tree's shadow stretches long across the stone path, now etched by morning light that grows warmer, though never harsh. The sky above is turning from silver to soft gold, and in the hush between bird calls and breeze, you can feel the world beginning to wake. Yet here beneath the canopy of this ancient tree, time still moves slowly, if it moves at all. You remain seated alongside Rahula and the Buddha, and though your body has not shifted much, something deep inside you has changed, not dramatically, not suddenly, but like dew warming on a leaf, disappearing without notice. The Buddha rests his hands in his lap again, palms facing upward, a gesture of openness. His breathing is even, not exaggerated, not performed, just present. Then he speaks again, and his voice carries the calmness of the earth itself. Rahula, he says, do you remember the mirror in the hall near your kuti? Rahula nods gently. Yes, I clean it every week. The Buddha smiles. And why do you clean it? So I can see clearly, Rahula replies, and so the others may see themselves clearly too. The Buddha lifts his gaze. The mind is like that mirror. It does not need to shine on its own. It only needs to be clean enough to reflect the truth. You feel this image settle into your breath, the mind as a mirror, not something to be adorned, decorated, or made impressive, just kept clear, gently, patiently, so that it can show what is, so that you can meet yourself in its surface, not the stories, not the masks, not the worries, but the quiet essence that remains. The Buddha's voice softens again. We do not purify the mind by force. We do it by seeing clearly, by noticing when it is clouded, and then simply wiping gently. A breeze rustles the fig leaves overhead, and a few fall lightly to the ground. Each one lands with a whisper, as if bowing. You recall the thoughts that clouded you earlier, perhaps a worry, or an old habit, or a lingering regret. And you see now, none of them were the mirror. They were only dust, and dust can be brushed away. Rahula speaks now almost in a whisper, so when I'm angry or afraid, I don't have to fix it. No, the Buddha says. You simply have to see it, and ask, am I seeing clearly? This, you realize, is the kindness at the heart of Buddhist practice. It is not about perfection. It is about clarity, compassion, the slow turning of awareness toward itself without judgment, without shame. The Buddha leans back, slightly resting against the tree trunk. Rahula, a mirror, does not judge what it reflects. It shows it. And then it lets it go. Your breath slows again. You feel your ribs expand like soft wings, your belly rise and fall like the tide, and the mirror of your own mind, though still marked by small smudges, here and there begins to show something clear, something honest, a person sitting, a breath moving, a stillness deepening. Rahula lifts his face toward the light, not squinting, not seeking, just receiving. And in that gesture, there is such grace. You mirror him. You allow the warmth of the morning sun to find your cheeks, your brow, your closed eyelids. It is not a light that exposes. It is a light that blesses. The Buddha speaks once more. When the mirror is clean, even the moonlight rests easily upon it. Even sorrow reflects gently. You let those words echo their poetry, opening slowly inside you, like a lotus bloom at dawn. Yes, sorrow can be gentle. Fear can be seen without being fed. Even your most tender emotions can float across the mirror without leaving cracks. You are not broken. You are reflecting. You sit with that truth, unmoving as the breeze plays with the edge of your sleeve. A bird calls from the canopy and another answers. You smile not because they sang for you, but because they sang. And you were here to listen. Rahula opens his eyes. There's a question there, quiet and sincere. What happens, he asks, when I forget this? The Buddha replies with warmth. Then you remember again. You close your eyes once more, letting that become your mantra. When I forget, I remember again. And that too is the practice. Not holding on, but returning. Not being flawless, but being faithful to the breath, to the mirror, to this gentle rhythm of noticing and letting go. The ground beneath you is solid. The tree above you is strong. The sunlight on your skin is soft. And in your heart, a new kind of stillness has taken root. Not the stillness of holding your breath, but of breathing and trusting that it is enough. You begin to sense the morning pressing forward now. The garden will soon be alive with footsteps, sweeping brooms, the clatter of bowls, and the gentle greetings of monks and novices alike. But none of that disrupts you, because your mind has become like that mirror, ready, receptive, clear enough to meet whatever comes. The Buddha stands slowly, and Rahula rises with him. You do the same. There is no announcement, no ritual, just rising like the sun, like the breath, like awareness itself. And as you step back onto the path, the mirror of your mind carries a single reflection: peace, quiet, and the willingness to begin again. The temple begins to stir behind you. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings not sharply, but with a round, mellow tone that drifts gently through the garden like incense on a breeze. Its sound doesn't interrupt the stillness. It joins it. It marks the hour, yes, but more than that, it reminds you that presence has no schedule. Peace is not confined to the moments before dawn. Rahula and the Buddha have begun to walk once more slowly along the shaded path that curves back toward the monastery hall. The ground beneath your feet is warm now, and each footfall feels like a gentle affirmation. You are still here. You are still walking the path, not through miles or effort, but through breath, attention, and care. The Buddha walks with the ease of someone who has let go of needing to arrive. His hands are folded in front of him, his gaze neither high nor low, but resting somewhere between the way you look when you are truly present with nothing to hide and nothing to seek. Rahula, he says after a long silence. Do you know how to listen? Rahula turns toward his father, his brow furrowed not in confusion, but curiosity. I think so, he replies. The Buddha slows. Most people think listening is about sound, he says. But true listening is deeper. It is the willingness to hear what is not spoken. You pause inwardly as you take in his words. You think about the way you often listen, not just with ears, but with your thoughts already forming a reply, with judgment, with distraction, and you begin to understand perhaps listening begins when wanting stops, when the mind becomes quiet enough not to interrupt the world. Rahula says nothing. He only nods. The Buddha's teaching doesn't demand an answer. It simply plants a seed. The wind picks up again, gentle, continuous. It moves through the trees, rustling the palms, turning the pages of a nearby prayer text left open on a stone bench. The sound it makes is soft, layered like a voice without words, and you listen. Not to make meaning, not to understand, but just to receive. Like the moon receives the reflection of a pond, like the mirror receives the face before it. Do you hear that the Buddha asks? Rahula closes his eyes. Yes, he whispers. The Buddha places a hand lightly on his son's shoulder. That is Dharma too. You look around your senses, open like windows on a warm evening. You hear not just the bell or the wind or the bird calls, but also the space between the sounds, the quiet in which they live, the silence that supports them, that holds them, that allows them to arrive and depart freely. And you realize you've been craving this kind of listening, not the kind that fixes or solves or judges, but the kind that simply honors what is. The Buddha continues walking and you follow. He moves toward a small shaded bench beside a koi pond. The fish are gliding slowly beneath the water's surface, barely visible, just the occasional flick of a fin or the ripple of a tail breaking through the stillness. They are not in a hurry. They move because the water invites them. The Buddha sits down and motions for Rahula and you to do the same. In this practice, he says, we are asked to listen with the whole body, with the breath, with the heart. He closes his eyes and for a while no one speaks. The pond continues to ripple, but softly like breath itself. You become aware of your own listening, of how it shifts when the mind quiets. You are not trying to grasp meaning. You are allowing it to emerge as naturally as dawn unfolds from darkness. A memory comes, perhaps not a memory of your own, but when shared across time. A monk long ago, seated under a tree, heard the wind pass through bamboo and suddenly understood something that no words could explain. Not because the wind carried a message, but because he was ready to receive. Rahula opens his eyes slowly. He looks toward the water, where the fish now gather near the surface, mouths rising for nothing in particular. He smiles. I think I'm beginning to understand, he says. The Buddha does not nod or speak. He only watches the fish. Rahula adds, to listen is to make room. And the Buddha finally replies, yes. And to make room is to make peace. You sit with this, not just the words, but the sensation they carry. The idea that peace is not something you add, but something you uncover. That it appears when you clear away enough space for it to enter. A bee passes close to your ear, buzzing briefly, then disappearing toward the flowering shrubs. You do not flinch. You let it come and go. You listened, and then let go. The Buddha rises again. Come, he says, the morning has begun, and the teachings continue with each footstep. You stand slowly, feeling the weight of your body with gratitude. The gravity that holds you is no longer something to resist. It anchors you. It reminds you that you are here, part of this earth, part of this breath, part of this quiet unfolding. As you begin walking once more back toward the monastery buildings, where the rest of the community is beginning their day, you hold one thing close. You don't have to strive for stillness. You just have to make room. The monastery comes into view ahead, whitewashed stone walls, touched by golden light, slanted rooftops warmed by the early sun. You walk slowly, not because you are tired, but because rushing no longer makes sense. Each step now feels like a continuation of the sitting, a seamless transition from stillness into movement that still carries silence in its bones. Around you, life begins to awaken. A novice monk quietly sweeps the flagstones with long, measured strokes. Another sets out 3 bowls at the steps of the Dhamma hall, their round forms glowing slightly in the soft light. A bird dips low toward the edge of the pond. A butterfly, its wings, not yet fully dry, clings to a leaf, trembling slightly in the breeze. None of this is dramatic. None of it demands your attention. And yet every small thing is part of the teaching. The Buddha stops at the edge of a low wall and turns facing the temple. Rahula joins him. So do you. Together the 3 of you stand in silence. The world continues around you, but you remain still, like stones at the water's edge, bearing witness to the movement, but never chasing it. Rahula the Buddha says softly, "We've spoken of the mind as the moon, the mirror, the bowl. But there is one more image." Rahula looks up attentively, his expression open, like a newly turned field. "The sky," the Buddha says. "The vast, empty sky. It holds everything, but clings to nothing. Storms come and go, clouds drift and dissolve, yet the sky remains untouched. That is the nature of your awareness. You close your eyes and feel it now, not just as a concept, but as a sensation. The spaciousness of sky, the openness of it. Thoughts pass through, emotions rise and fall, but the sky of the mind remains vast, undisturbed, whole. So when anger visits, the Buddha continues, or sorrow or doubt, do not resist them. Let them pass across your sky like weather. Do not try to become the sky. You already are. That thought settles deep into your chest like warm water poured over stone. You feel the truth of it ripple outward, that peace does not come from perfecting the clouds, but from remembering the sky behind them. Rahula closes his eyes and repeats softly, "I already am." You say nothing aloud, but inwardly you echo the same phrase, "I already am." It is not a boast. It is not a shield. It is a remembrance, a quiet returning to the vastness within you, a space wide enough to hold confusion and clarity, fear and tenderness, all without conflict. The Buddha begins to walk again this time, leading you toward the cloistered corridor that circles the temple grounds. Its covered walkway is lined with low stone benches and shaded by tall wooden beams. Monks pass by silently, some with alms bowls tucked close to their chests, some with robes gently brushing against the stone. The sound of their sandals is soft and rhythmic. It matches your breath, your steps. The world feels like it's walking with you. The Buddha pauses near a row of lotus carvings etched into the stone wall. Their petals curve upward, their centers untouched. Some are nearly faded from centuries of wind and rain, but the outline remains like memory, etched in stone. He points to one. This lotus, he says, has seen many lives pass before it. It has heard prayers, received shadows, witnessed silence, and yet it says nothing. It only opens. Rahula steps forward to touch the carving with the tips of his fingers. You do the same. The stone is cool and smooth, worn from generations of gentle hands. You feel not just the lotus beneath your touch, but the presence of all who have come before, those who sat quietly, breathed deeply, and remembered. Each time you return to your breath, the Buddha says you return to the lotus. You open without force. You rise without struggle. You think of the countless breaths you've taken today, some shallow, some forgotten, some woven with thought. But each one was a step, a fold, a petal. And now you breathe with greater presence, not because you've mastered anything, but because you've remembered the way back. Rahula speaks now, his voice steady. And when I forget the sky, when I forget the moon, the bowl, the mirror, the lotus, the Buddha smiles. Then you sit, you breathe, and they return. You take a deep breath now, long and slow. You feel it fill your chest, like morning light entering a room through an open window. You hold it not tightly but briefly, like pausing to appreciate a visitor. Then you release, and the breath leaves just as it came gently, peacefully. Ahead, the steps to the meditation hall rise in smooth, wide stone. The doors are still closed, but you know they will open soon. Soon, others will join the morning sit. Soon, chants will begin low and melodic, the voices of community rising and falling like the tide. But for now, there is only this, you Rahula, and the Buddha, the breath, the silence, the remembering. And as the Buddha turns once more toward the eastern light, he says, to sit like the moon is not to shine for others. It is to rest in your own reflection and let that be enough. And in that moment, you believe him, not because it sounds wise, but because your body feels it. Your breath confirms it. Your stillness reveals it. You too are sky. You too are the moon. You too are home. The sun now peers fully over the treetops, its warm fingers brushing across the monastery grounds, lighting up the tips of tiled roofs and the edges of worn stone steps. It casts long golden shadows that stretch like quiet mantras over the courtyard, each one a soft reminder that time too is a teacher, not because it hurries us, but because it shows us the beauty of change. You Rahula and the Buddha remain outside the meditation hall, the great wooden doors still closed, the world still hushed. Around you, monks begin to pass in slow, steady silence, some carrying small bundles of robes, others holding water jars or sweeping brooms. Yet no one moves quickly. No one breaks the calm. The peace cultivated before dawn is not lost now that the light has come. It simply shifts shape. The Buddha turns slightly, his face lit by morning. Rahula, he says, do you remember how the moon gives its light? Rahula nods softly. By reflection, yes, the Buddha replies. It shines not from effort, but from stillness, not from force, but from alignment. It does not make its own glow, it offers what it receives. So too must we reflect the Dharma, not as performance, not as possession, but as presence. You feel the words in your chest more than your mind. Something in you settles deeper, as though another layer of resistance has melted quietly like wax near a flame. You think of how often you've tried to generate peace, to force quiet to become spiritual in moments of distress. But now the teaching reveals itself again. You do not have to shine. You only have to receive. Let the teachings land on the surface of your awareness, as the moon receives the light of the sun. That is enough. The temple bell rings, once more a low, round tone that vibrates through the soles of your feet as though the earth itself has spoken. You turn your attention toward the meditation hall doors, which creak slowly open on their hinges. Inside, rows of cushions line the wooden floor. The air is still. The room, simple and unadorned, feels sacred, not because of decoration, but because of silence. You step across the threshold barefoot, the cool stone grounding you. Rahula enters beside you. So does the Buddha. You each find a cushion facing the altar at the far end of the room. It holds only a small image of the Buddha seated in meditation, eyes lowered, palms open, posture serene. You settle onto your cushion. Your body knows this now. The motion is familiar. Your knees fold. Your hands rest. Your spine finds its length. Not rigid, not slouched, simply upright, like a stalk of bamboo bending in the wind. The air inside is cool and laced with the scent of old wood, faint sandalwood, and a whisper of incense from an earlier offering. You close your eyes and allow the sound of your breath to arrive again in the foreground. It moves like the sea at low tide, smooth, gentle, vast. The Buddha's voice echoes into the hall, not loud, but steady, carried with the same rhythm as breath. To sit is not to escape the world, but to return to it more clearly. And somehow you understand. The cushion is not an island. It is a bridge. You sit not to detach, but to remember. To meet the world with a heart that has been rinsed in silence. The sound of other monks settling joins the room, rustling robes, the quiet shifting of bodies, finding stillness. You don't open your eyes. You don't need to. You are not alone in your practice. You are part of a current now, a river of presence that stretches across lifetimes. Rahula the Buddha says softly, "When you sit, do not search for stillness. Let stillness find you." Rahula does not respond. He only sits, and so do you. The room grows even quieter, the kind of quiet that hums beneath sound, a vast quiet, the kind you feel behind your eyes, under your ribs, at the center of your palms. A sacred hush, deeper than sleep, but brighter than thought. You notice your breath again, not because it has changed, but because you have arrived. Each inhale is a rising, each exhale a return. You're not riding your breath, you're being carried by it, gently, like a boat on still water, like the moon across the night sky. And then without effort, a memory floats forward, not a sharp one, not painful, just a moment. A version of you once hurried, once uncertain, once clinging to control. You do not push it away. You offer it space. You say silently, "I see you. You're safe now." This too is the practice, welcoming the many versions of yourself, letting them sit beside you, letting them rest. The Buddha speaks once more. Just as the moon rests on all waters, may your awareness rest on all things. May it hold anger without being burned. May it hold grief without drowning. May it hold joy without clinging. And may it hold yourself with kindness. You breathe in deeply. You hold it not tightly but reverently, and then release. The air leaves your lungs like a bird lifting into the sky, leaving behind a still branch. You are aware of your posture now, not because it aches, but because it belongs. Your body has become the cushion, the floor, the earth. You are no longer sitting in a room. You are sitting in presence itself. The Buddha goes quiet. No one else speaks. And yet the silence says everything. You are here. You are whole. You are the moon now, soft, clear, and full, even in a sky that will someday darken again. But for now, You simply sit. The silence in the hall deepens not as absence, but as arrival. You've moved beyond the need for guidance, beyond the edge of thought and language. Everything has grown quiet, yes, but not empty. The silence is full. It holds you the way the sea holds a drifting shell, gently, completely, without demand. Your breath continues slow and smooth like silk pulled across the loom of the moment. Inhale, the room expands. Exhale, the body releases. Each breath a thread weaving you more deeply into this present moment. You are not trying to meditate anymore. You are not trying to do anything. You are simply being. Rahula sits to your left, still and steady. The soft rise and fall of his chest mirrors your own. He is not the boy who once chased his father's shadow, nor the student hoping for approval. He is simply a presence now, like you, like the cushion beneath you, like the air moving softly through the open windows. The Buddha's voice rises once more slow and low like wind through trees. Rahula, he says, you have sat like the moon. You have reflected without clinging, listened without grasping. Now do you understand? Rahula opens his eyes not wide but gently. He doesn't rush to answer. Instead, he turns toward his father, toward you, and says, only this: I understand that there is nothing to understand, only to sit, only to be. The Buddha smiles not with pride, but with peace. Then the moon is within you now, and so is the sky, and so is the path. You feel something settle in your chest, not excitement, not achievement, but something quieter. A calm recognition that the teaching is complete, that nothing more is needed. Outside the hall, a bird calls out again, its song higher now, more open. The world continues. Dishes will be washed. Paths will be swept. The rhythm of living will resume. But you will carry this stillness into all of it. You will carry the moon, the bowl, the mirror, the breath. The Buddha closes his eyes. Rahula does too, and so do you. You rest in your seat, as if it were the lap of the earth itself. Your spine tall, your hands open. There is nothing to do now, nowhere to go. Only this: breath, presence, peace. Let your thoughts wander if they must. Let your breath guide you gently home. Let your whole body soften like moonlight dissolving on still water. You are the moon now, and you are the sky, and you are enough. And now, dear one, let the stillness deepen even further. Let everything that stirred during this journey now settle like golden dust, drifting to the bottom of a clear bowl. Your body softened, your mind no longer seeking. You are safe here. There's nothing left to hold up or hold on to. The Buddha Rahula, the fig tree, the moonlit courtyard, all of it dissolves into the quiet glow of memory, not gone, just resting beneath the surface like water beneath stone. You have learned to sit like the moon, not by force, not by becoming perfect, but by letting yourself reflect what is true. Your breath, your presence, your tender, open heart. Let your body become heavier now. The cushion, the bed, the ground, all rising up to support you. You need not try anymore. The breath still moves, but slower, now deeper, like waves rolling back into the sea. Your mind may offer one last thought. Let it float. Watch it pass. Return again to the space between breaths. Feel the kindness that lingers, warm, silent, complete. You are held in this night by stillness, by the teaching, by the silence you've learned to trust. You are not alone. Every quiet breath you take now joins the great silence of those who came before, those who sat beneath trees, beside ponds, within halls, just like this one, and remembered how to simply be. Let sleep come like the moon crossing into clouds. No rush, no resistance, just rest. Let the light dim from within. Let the mirror fade into stillness. And as the last thought drifts away, may you know this. You are whole. You are home. You are loved.